Hello puddings. Oh, and hello to my fellow cruisers that I'm going to meet on the Symphony of the Seas this Halloween. Now, today I'm going to show you how to make some little duckies like this if you want to take part in the Cruising Ducks programme when you're on board the Symphony of the Seas, or any other time that you're cruising, because it's a great little cruising tradition. Okay, so the tradition is that people started leaving little ducks with a tag on saying who'd left them, and you could find them hidden about the ship, and then you could take them home as a little souvenir, or you could take them on your next cruise and hide them for somebody else to have. Anyway, that's what Cruising Ducks is all about. There's even a website and everything. But I'm making some out of recycled stuff to take with me on our cruise from Barcelona over to Florida at Halloween. So I started off with this little gorgeous ducky here, and I just made this one just to see if my pattern worked and everything. She's a little bit sort of rough and ready and everything, but I like her. She's really cute. She's kind of squishy. Got a little bit better now. I've got some nice fabric, and I'm going to show you how to make this simple ducky. Okay, for today, I've got this fabulous fabric that's got unicorns on, because these duckies are going to remind you to be magical at all times. Magical. I made myself a little template. So here is my ducky template, the body, and you'll notice she's beakless. But here's the little template, and all it is a semicircle, and you fold it in half and you get a little beak like this one. I'm going to put these two bits together because I'm going to cut it out all in one go. So I've got the good side outwards, and I can draw around my template and cut it out back in a minute. And there we go, two bits of ducky and they're just already there now to be sewn together. Now I've just put a couple of pins in there to keep the two pieces together while I sew. If you haven't got straight pins, because you're not dead crafty but you fancy having a go anyway, and you just want to use what you've got in your house, those little safety pins that pin on, you know, like the labels of clothes, and you get a little safety pin. Use those tiny little safety pins, they're great. Yeah. Now, thread your needle, and I'm using purple cotton. You'll be able to see it, but as I've said before, if I'm hand stitching something, I want people to see those stitches, however uneven and personal they are, because I think that that is what makes little handmade things look great. First thing I do is go in through just one piece, and that's so that the knot that I've tied in my cotton is on the inside of the ducky, and tuck that little bit of string in. Now I brought the string round to the front of my sewing, and I'm going to go in, and if you want to try a blanket stitch on this, you can. If you go in, and where your needle sticks out there, make sure that you've caught the cotton in that bit, okay, and it's caught up. And then go in again, wrap it round, and it kind of gets, I don't know if you can see that now, so I've made a rod for my own back here. Yep, so it kind of gets caught up because you've wrapped the needle round. You don't have to do it like that, you can do any stitches you want, but this, it kind of gives it a little handcrafted look to it. So let's see how that looks there now. There you go, we've got our little stitch, and you can see a little bit of thread, oops, sorry, along the top. I'm going to do a little bit and then come back to you. You can see how the stitching looks, and with a blanket stitch, as it's known, you can see that the thread, because I've flipped it over, kind of gets caught along the edge as well, giving it a slightly more caught up look, and where the stitching is will make a kind of edging to it. And there, I've done most of it. Now don't get carried away and seal it all up, otherwise you won't be able to put the stuffing in. Although you could have little flat ones, they'd be just as cute. But anyway, you need a little gap left, like that, because you're going to like put some stuffing in there. And you know that I'm a reuser, recycler, all of that, and so I'm not going to go and buy new stuffing. You can if you want, but I'm not going to. And I've used some just from an old cushion inner that I had. So I've got my stuffing here, and I'm going to start popping it in my little ducksy wooksy. Is get little bits, and I stick it in with my fingers, just pushing it down, popping it in there. You don't need too much, because these are not going to be like 3D ducks, they're just going to be kind of padded, aren't they? When you think you've got enough stuffing in for whatever you want to do, then the next thing is you're just going to carry on stitching and stitch up that open section. Once you've stitched all of the main body of the duck and it's all stuffed and everything, you can give it a little squish to make sure it's nice and even, and you might have some thread left if you're lucky. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go straight in And I'm going to sew on the eyes. And I've got the thread sticking out of the middle bit there, and I'm going to get a button. They're just teeny weeny little shirt buttons would be perfect. They don't match perfectly. Part of making something handmade is that it might not be perfect, and people can see that. It's on that side. I've pushed it through to the other side. I'm going to catch up my other button on the other side. So as you sew through, you can catch up the button. The next step is I'm going to go back into that eye, but instead of coming out the other side now, I'm going to come down to there, you can see sticking out, because I'm going to use that same thread to sew on the beak. My beak, it's just a semicircle. And I'm going to attach that to my duck. Oh, it looks so good once it gets its beak on. Look at that. Oh, I'm going to put it there and just hold it. I've got it held onto there. I'm just holding it between my finger and thumb. And the first stitch is going to be right at that bottom corner. So once I've got that bottom corner sewn on, then your in and out stitch, keeping your edge of your ducky and making sure it's catching in on the edge of the face. And so I've got that side of the beak on, and you can see it's open now. You could leave it like that, actually. I quite like the fact that it's like almost like an open ducky beak. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop a little bit of stuffing in there and then sew up that edge. And there's the beak on. How cute is this little ducky looking right now? Now you can see what I did was when I finished that, I pushed the needle through a couple of times so it wouldn't show. And then I've ended up with my cotton sticking out here because I'm going to add some little ducky feet. But you don't need to, because it looks kind of sweet like that, doesn't it? So I'm going to see what some ducky feet look like. Felt is the best stuff for doing little things like feet and maybe even the eyes if you didn't have buttons, because you won't have any worries about any edges fraying or anything like that. So I've made a little duck pattern there, and I'm going to stitch it on, one on each side of ducky. And that's my second ducky all finished. How gorgeous is that one, especially with the unicorns on? Totally magical. Always be magical. That's what I find. So if you fancy having a go, see if the tutorial helps, and hopefully some people will have a go at making some, and I might see them when we're on board the Symphony of the Seas, sailing from Barcelona on the 29th of October. All right then, I'll catch you later, puddings. Bye.